Welcome to GoToWebinar. Web events may... The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. This is Whitney over at Health Trust Software. And this morning we are going to be talking about billing self-pay claims. Okay. I have already logged into the system this morning. But the first thing that we're actually going to look at is how we even get that self-pay payer in the system. Okay, it's not like your typical payers that you would go into reference and payers and actually add them into the system. With the self-pay claims or the self-pay payers, basically, you don't actually add them in under that reference tab. These are options that when in your patient menu or several other screens in the system, to choose that self-pay option, let me just choose a patient here as an example. When I'm in my insurance tab, to choose that self-pay option, I'm going to be looking for this little icon over here to the right-hand side that looks like a driver's license. That's going to automatically put that self-pay in that payer or insurance field. And that way, as I'm going through that billing process for those self-pay claims, the system will see that self-pay payer. Now this is if you have self-pay listed as a primary insurance. Remember, you can list self-pay as a secondary insurance. If maybe you're billing the insurance company first and then you're billing the self-pay as the secondary for the remainder of that balance. Again, just look for that little driver's license and make sure that you select that little driver's license to enter in self-pay. Now a little bit further down on the page, you'll notice that we have a claim form box here, and you want to make sure that the claim form type is selected as self-pay. That way it's going to pull up that self-pay invoice so that you guys will be able to see a list of all of those charges and actually print out that invoice and mail it to that patient. Now the next thing that we're going to actually look at is going to be the billing menu itself and how those self-pay claims are going to actually show up in the billing menu. So when I go to my billing tab, I'm going to choose View Potential Claims, just like I normally would if I were going in to do billing for any other type of payer. You can bill those self-pay claims at the same time as you bill your other payers. They're not actually going electronically to your patient, but you still need to create that claim in our system so you can print out that self-pay invoice. Now once I've gone to my billing and my View Potential Claims screen, it automatically takes me into a filter page where I can filter by whatever I'm looking for. If maybe I'm looking for a specific patient, or if I only want to pull up the self-pay claims for a specific provider, I can use that option. If I'm looking for just the self-pay claims, remember your payer isn't going to be listed in that payer list like all of your other payers that you've added in the system. So you're not really going to be able to utilize this particular payer box, but what you can do is just uncheck these include boxes except for the one entitled self-pay. Now if you were still also billing maybe some commercial claims or some other type of claims, you could leave those other tabs selected. But for the purpose of this webinar, we're just going to be looking for our self-pay claims. So I'm just choosing the self-pay option. And then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and just simply click Filter. You have some other options here that you can use, different requirements or different parameters on how you want it to separate those claims. But again, I'm just going to use that self-pay option and then go ahead and filter by those self-pay claims. Now that's going to show you a list of the hard copy claims to be sent to the patient. You have your filter tab at the very top of the screen again, so if you wanted to refilter that list, you could go right back into it. or you can choose that self-pay tab just to go back to your list of all of the self-pay claims. Once you've found the ones that you want to bill, you can click on the check mark that's next to each one and then click Submit in the upper right-hand corner to actually move those self-pay claims over to your pending claims screen. Now, if you needed to go to some other page in the system to complete something else, let's say we wanted to go into the patient menu to check something for a specific patient. If we wanted to just jump directly back to that pending claims screen where we had just created those self-pay claims, I can just go back into the billing tab and then choose View Pending Claims. And that's going to take me right back into that pending claims screen. And then the system automatically separates all of the claims that show up in this screen by the type of claims that they are. So we have some wraps in here for our Medicare. We have some UBO4s, 1500s, and here's those self-pay claims. Now, just like any other claim that shows up in this screen, if there are any error messages, you'll see those outlined in red. Any warnings will be outlined in yellow. And then anything that's successfully validated, which it looks like I don't have any in this screen, is going to be outlined in bright green, and it's going to tell you that the claim was successfully validated. You still have the same options over to the right-hand side that you have with your other commercial claims or even your other PPS claims. The first aid kit is simply going to open up that Edit Pending Claim and allow you to edit that one particular claim. So you can use the different tabs to scroll through. Maybe you want to look at the different charges that are going to be on that self-pay claim. Your claim info, your payer should say self-pay, and your claim form should default to self-pay. You have a print option if you'd like to pull up that PDF of that actual self-pay claim. You'll notice at the very bottom it has a little section for your patient to detach and actually send back with their payment, and it would pull that balance or the amount due, any remaining balance that's on that patient's profile. And you also have a confirm button from within inside this pending claim. So if there's only a warning and you still want to bill that particular claim, you've looked at the warning and you still want to go ahead and bill it, go ahead and click confirm, and that would actually confirm your claim. Now, what happens after a self-pay claim is confirmed is just like your other claims, when they're generated and confirmed, they actually go over into this billing and claims screen. And you also can see that ledger post over here under ledger and then ledger. Okay. Now, the only difference is your other types of claims that are not self-pay may be going at that point once you confirm them electronically to your payer. And you actually want to pull up those invoices and print them out so that you can send them to your patients. Okay. Now remember, when we clicked on the first aid kit, we actually saw where we had a print button so we could print that invoice out. But the most common way to print those invoices out is to go into the billing tab and then select Create Transmission File. Now what this is going to allow you to do is it's going to generate basically a screen image of all of the different self-pay claims that you choose so that you can click on each one and print them out and then send them to your patients. The claim form up at the top, I'm going to make sure that I select self-pay. Remember, when we're looking for our payer, we always want to use the little driver's license because we don't add a self-pay payer actually in our payer list. So I'm going to click on the little driver's license. And then I'm just going to click Submit. Again, you could filter by a specific patient. Maybe you want only claims that were created within a specific date range, or you could filter by a specific branch office that you're looking for. I'm just going to run mine wide open and show you guys what the list looks like. You have little check boxes located next to each claim. Now what this is showing you here, it might not seem like a lot of claims, but what the system is doing whenever it populates this page is it's looking at, for example, Roger Rabbit, and it's looking at the MR number, so that one patient record, and it's taking all of basically the claims that have a balance, and it's compiling all of those into one self-pay invoice. Okay, so for example, we have 3 Jamie Adams here, but you'll notice that the MR number is different, so it looks like this patient may have been discharged and readmitted several times in the system, but it looks like there's still a remaining balance on some of these accounts, so that's why she's showing up in here 3 different times. That's the reason why this one is showing up in here twice. It looks like it's the same patient account. They may have just been readmitted. Once you've actually selected on the left-hand side the claims that you would like to print out, down at the very bottom, before you click Submit, you can actually enter in a contact name or a contact phone. So if your patient has any questions about that particular invoice, you can put in a specific name and phone number for them to contact. Okay, it looks like we have some questions that are coming in that I will address towards the end of the webinar. Now once I've selected those claims on the left-hand side, I'm going to click Submit, and what that's going to do is that's going to pull up a list, and you'll see several different files here. Now each of these files is going to be your self-pay invoice. Okay, so we can click on each of these, and that's going to actually pull up that invoice for you to print out. It'll show and pull that balance for you, and it'll pull that correct branch office for that particular patient. Now you will have to go in for the time being and click on each one of these. We are looking into possibly a way to mass print these out, but for right now we do only have the capabilities to just click on them individually and print them out one by one. But it is nice having them all in one screen so that you don't have to keep going back into the billing and claims screen and finding the one that you want and printing it out, or maybe printing it out from that pending claims screen. Okay. Now let's actually look at what would happen. We kind of went through this process as if we were billing self-pay as like a primary payer. Okay, so what if self-pay is a secondary payer? What we want to look at now is how we would shift that payment or shift that remaining balance over to a self-pay so that we could create that invoice. So what you would want to do, you would have your original claim maybe billed to your primary payer, maybe Blue Cross Blue Shield, maybe another payer that you have, and that is going to go through that normal billing process. So it's going to go through the View Potential Claims screen, View Pending Claims screen. You'll then confirm that claim. It'll go electronically to the payer if you have that set up in our system. And then it'll also move that claim that was billed electronically or that you billed maybe another way via your own transmission process. It'll put that claim that was created in our system under the billing and the claims screen. Now mine is trying to default to that last patient I was working with, so if that happens and your screen shows up blank, just choose the All option to the right hand side of the alphabet, and that'll refilter that list for you. Now you have your advanced search option in the upper right hand corner, and you can just scroll through here or use the advanced search and locate that claim that you want. I'm just going to use this one as an example. So I'm going to click on the claim, and the tab that I want to go to is going to be my Other Options tab. Now what I'm going to do once I get into the Other Options tab is I'm going to choose Shift Payment Responsibility Single Claim. And that's going to pull up my Edit Claim screen and allow me to shift that responsibility to a new claim, self-pay. Now when I do that, it automatically enters in my claim form as self-pay, so just make sure that that is that option that shows up here. That way it's going to pull it to that self-pay invoice form so that you can print it out. And then it should pull the quantity and any remaining balance that's left automatically. If they're only paying maybe a certain percentage or a certain amount, you can actually key in that amount. But again, it should be pulling that remaining balance. And then you're just simply going to click Submit. I'm going to go ahead and enter in $1 since it looks like I didn't have a balance on this particular one. And so what it's going to do is it's asking me here if I'm sure that I want to post that amount to the ledger. So what it's doing when I click Submit is it's generating that self-pay claim, which is actually making a ledger post. So it's posting that self-pay balance to that ledger. And then I would just go through that same process that we had just looked at. Go into the Billing tab, Create Transmission File, and then when I'm in that Create Transmission File and I'm looking for my self-pay claims, that self-pay claim that I just created would actually be showing up here in this list. Okay? Then you could just simply check the box, click Submit, and that would create those files. Now I didn't actually choose a file, so that's why my screen is showing up blank here. Now if you'd like to go back after the fact and maybe you'd like to run a report so that you can see all of your self-pay claims that maybe you've billed through the system, there are some reports in our report center that you can use. Probably the most convenient report that you can use is going to be our claims report. So to access that, I'm going to go into my report tab. I'm going to choose Report Center. And then I like to leave my type as all reports. You can narrow it down to maybe financial if you wanted to. I like to leave it as all reports so I can see everything that I have access to. And for my report, I'm going to choose claims, just plain claims. You have several different options here when you're choosing those claims report, but I'm just looking for the plain claims report. Okay. And then I'm going to scroll down, and the filter option that I'm looking for is going to be claim type. Okay. Now this claim type box isn't a drop-down box, so you have to actually type in the claim type that you're wanting. So it's really important that you type it in correctly. Oops, and I can't spell this morning. Now you'll notice if I just type in self-pay with a space in the middle and no dash, it doesn't give me any information. Okay, now the reason why it doesn't is because when it lists the claim type in our system, self-pay is actually listed with a dash in between the word self and pay, and there's no additional spaces in between those two words. So make sure that you just type it in self-pay with no spaces. Then when you click Submit, that should actually run that claims report, and it'll show you several different things. You can narrow this report down if you don't want to see all of this information, and you'll be able to see whether it was just a self-pay or maybe you transferred the remaining balance down to a secondary self-pay. You'll see it says self-pay transfer. And then over to the right-hand side, you'll be able to see when it was created, the actual amount, and of course that payer is also going to say self-pay. Now we did have a question that came in, so let me pull that up. Okay, and the question is, when we were actually looking at that View Pending Claims screen, and you scroll down, when you click on the little first aid kit to the right-hand side of that self-pay claim, when you're selecting Print Right Now, before you actually confirm it, it does show up blank here in the description box. That is something that we're looking at, and we hopefully are going to have that start populating the actual charges in this screen. So if you wanted to print it out before you actually confirmed it, you could. For the time being, your best bet is going to be to confirm that particular self-pay invoice and then actually go to billing and create transmission file. We're hoping to have that resolved soon, where it'll actually populate that information for you, so that you guys can maybe go through and actually look at that invoice and verify that it's correct before you claim it, before you confirm it. And it looks like we had another question also maybe that came in. Bear with me just a minute. I'm trying to make my little question box larger here. Oh, nope. It looks like that was the only question that came in so far. If you guys have any other questions, we'll keep you posted on those particular self-pay claims and when that option will be available. So when you're clicking print, when it will actually start populating those fields or that description of those charges into that section. So keep an eye out for that. This was a fairly short webinar this morning, but we will post that webinar video in an alert this afternoon, also with the answer to the question that came in. So if you guys have any other questions, definitely let our training department know. And let me just make sure no additional questions came in. I don't see any. So if you have any additional questions, let our training department know and keep an eye out for that alert. Thanks for watching.